Be aware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that they catch you by surprise like a trap. These are interesting words to start with on the first Sunday of Advent. In other gospel, other years, with A and B, it's more back, the beginning of a gospel. But this year, in year C with Luke's gospel, we jump near the end of the gospel. But why do we do this? I think the church in its infinite wisdom is telling us how to live our life, especially during the season of Advent. Not a life full of what? Carousing and drunkenness. Not a life that is filled with anxieties of daily life. Not a life that's going to catch the day of the Lord coming like a surprise. Instead, what are we called to do? To be vigilant at all times, as Luke continues. And to pray that we will continue to have that strength to escape any tribulations that come and to stand before the Son of Man. How? When these things begin to happen, when Christ's signs begin to happen, when he comes again in glory, to stand erect and raise our heads, because we will truly know our redemption is at hand. If the Lord were to come right now, all of a sudden the second coming will happen right now, would you be excited? Or would you go, uh-oh, I should have gone to confession? Or uh-oh, I shouldn't have drank so much wine at Thanksgiving? Or uh-oh, I shouldn't have watched that show on Netflix? Or uh-oh, I should have forgiven my neighbor? And we can go on and on and on. And if you have any of those uh-ohs, this is the season for you, which means it's the season for all of us, a season of preparation. See, Advent is not just preparing for the coming to celebrate Christ's coming that already happened, but also a season in which we're preparing for his coming again. And so how should this season look? First off, we have to commit to actually living in a season of Advent and not jumping ahead already to Christmas. Because Advent is much different than Christmas. Advent is preparing for the coming of the Lord. And so it should be filled with prayer, with fasting, and almsgiving. And be thinking, Father, that sounds a lot like Lent. And you are correct, because Lent too is kind of that season of preparing. And so how do we do that? Well, we commit this year to spend more time in prayer. We commit this year as well to fast from those things that take us away from the Lord. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's Netflix. Maybe it's different types of food. Whatever it is, social media. To withdraw from that. And of course, almsgiving, which means that giving of ourself to the service of others. And if we do this, we spend this time of preparation, when Christmas comes, we'll have that excitement. That same excitement when Christ comes again in glory. Not shaking with tribulation, not going, uh-oh, but instead truly being excited to see the Lord. But we have to commit to this. We have to commit to the season of Advent. And I want to finish the homily with a little analogy, actually, of what we can maybe emulate to be prepared for the coming of Christ. It's a weird analogy, but you guys are used to weird analogies from me, so not a problem on that front. But actually, when Christmas season comes, this whole church, at least the sanctuary, we filled with different Christmas poinsettias. It'll be beautiful. We'll have, some white ones, but a lot of red ones as well. And it's interesting, a poinsettia flower is actually very hard to get to bloom at a proper time. But over the years, farmers, especially in Mexico and down south, have kind of become experts on how to grow poinsettias. But if you want to grow a poinsettia, maybe you have one, and well, a little late now, by the way, but if you wanted to have a poinsettia at your house, and you wanted it to bloom right around Christmas, this is what you'd have to do. Right in the beginning of October, every single day, right around 5 o'clock, you'd have to remove it from any source of light. Have to go put it in a closet, whatever. It can't even be, artificial light. You have to remove it completely at 5 o'clock at night, all the way until 8 a.m. And you have to do this for about 2 months, 2.5 months, so at the season of Christmas, they come to bloom. If you don't do this, if it's exposed to light too much, it's going to bloom too soon. If you keep it in the darkness altogether, well, then it's going to die, right? But they've got this down in this way so that once again, right at Christmas, those beautiful poinsettias, which you can imagine our head, are blooming. But the only way that's possible is to withdraw them from the light. I know this sounds weird, but we too need to withdraw from the light of the world. We too need to spend this time in that darkness with the Lord. It sounds weird as well, darkness for the Lord, but I like this analogy because when we can move ourselves from the world, it's just the Lord and ourself. Nothing else affecting us. And so we live our life like we do. We go to work, we go to school, we do whatever else. But during the rest of the Advent season, can we be like a poinsettia and take ourselves away from everything else? If you do this, if we do this, what's going to happen? The Lord's going to continue to work on us. It's just Him and us. And we're going to start to bloom inside. Our soul will start to bloom in a way that we've never seen before. And so let's try that this Advent. Seriously. Really try this year. Not that you haven't in the past. I'm not saying we haven't, right? But once again this year, to spend that extra time in prayer. Father Bear, who I've mentioned before, when I was in the seminary, he said, Advent is the most powerful time of the year. It truly is. When we spend that time in prayer, the Lord will work immensely in our life. But in order for that to happen, we need to remove everything else and then spend that time with the Lord. But when we do, what's going to happen? When the Lord comes again, or even when Christmas comes and we celebrate His coming before, our heart, our soul, our whole life is going to explode in blooming of God's love. And so let's make sure we spend that time with the Lord.